Well, welcome everybody. Glad you could join us on this bright Sunday morning. Hope you weren't too delayed by all of the runners in the marathon. I'm Karen Hall, editor of Quick Printing Magazine, and I want to welcome you to Pathways to Profits and Productivity. This is an interactive event. It is sponsored by NAQP and Quick Printing and myprintresource.com. Our panel today consists of Dave Fellman. He is president of David Fellman and Associates in Cary, North Carolina, a sales and marketing consulting firm serving numerous segments of the graphic arts industry. Dave provides sales and sales management training all over the world. We also have Joe Ricard. Now, this is not in order. I'm putting you two guys together for a reason. He is president of Intellective Solutions, a consulting and training company currently working with large and small graphic communications and technology clients throughout North America. He frequently speaks at industry and company events and leads workshops on sales, business development, and sales management. Joe and Dave, the reason I put them together is because they share the writing of our Sales Clinic column. And on the months when Joe writes, Dave writes an online sales clinic column. So you have lots and lots of information about how to increase and manage your sales team. Mitch Evans, raise your hand, Mitch. Everyone knows him anyway, is president of Mitch Evans Consulting and managing director of NAQP. His company is specifically targeted to meet the consulting needs of the quick and small commercial printing industry. His areas of expertise are in strategic planning, valuation, mergers and acquisition, financial planning, new technology, and one-to-one coaching. Mitch writes our Winning Strategies column. Steve Johnson, on the end, is president of Capresco in Carroll Stream, Illinois. He is best known for his wry sense of humor. Steve is also a pioneer in digital printing and variable data and print on demand. He writes our Johnson's World column, which keeps things from getting too serious every month. Stuart Margolis takes us back into the realm of seriousness. He is a partner at Margolis Becker, the national accounting and corporate financial consulting firm which specializes in print and packaging and the purveyor of the Printing Industries of America ratios. Stuart writes our Money Talk column. Tonya Starr is president of Printer Presence by Firespring. She has dedicated her entire career to educating our industry members on web marketing, which just happens to be the title of her QP column. Now, what we're going to do today is have an interactive session. This is your chance to ask these industry experts the questions that you want to ask.
I'm just recovering from the marathon, so give me a couple minutes.
A long drive.
Yeah. But we see a lot of commonality. Most of the way I describe it is that a lot of it you can actually pick up in books, not just for that discuss why certain companies are successful, because the management of a company is still, whether it's a printing company or whether you're managing a restaurant, they're very similar. But what I find with graphic arts companies, the most important thing I think is the focus of the owners. If they have a focus on who they are, and again, I think the salespeople probably could speak better about this than I can. They understand who they are and what kind of service they want to deliver to their customers. They relay a better message, and their customers are happy. When customers are happy, they're willing to pay more for their services, and when they pay more for their services, they're more likely to be profitable. The other thing that I find that makes printing companies successful are those owners that are, I'll call it, cheap. The process of running a graphic arts company requires you to make sure that you spend as little as possible on your manufacturing costs, and if you aren't on top of that all of the time, then you're going to have a difficulty making money, because the profit margins are so thin in the printing industry that you really can't afford to pay extra for your material costs, for your equipment, for your labor, all the way through. And I guess that brings me up to the last item that I wanted to mention was, in the end, if you read the books about how to make a company a success, they always talk about the people in your company, and I have to say that that's true to the nth degree. Hire good people, train them, talk to them all day long, make sure they know what you want them to do, and deliver that initial message that I talked about, which is make sure that they know what the company focus is, and you'll be in good shape.
It's a great question. This is a interesting time right now. The economy is very tough. The printing industry is going through a big transition, and I'm sure that everybody in the panel is facing the same issue. When we need to find people in companies that are hiring now, it is absolutely brutal.
Right.
Finding those skill sets, particularly from young people. See, in printing, it's a little bit more difficult than just selling digital media solutions. You have to know something about printing. So you have to know about color management, you have to know about file management, you have to know about substrates. So this is an issue, I think, within the industry that we have to get people up the curve, and if we're not getting help from the associations or we're not getting help from the trade schools and the colleges, it's incumbent on the industry and the individual owners of companies to develop programs as you hire people to get people up the curve as quickly as possible. So it's kind of an issue. So if I was going to give you a suggestion, particularly in New York City where we work, many of the buyers right now do not know, we call it cognitive dissonance. They use printing, but yet they say printing is going away. But they use printing a lot. In a lot of cases, they don't know enough about printing to really know where it all fits. So I would have a suggestion that you really begin to know the foundations of printing as a starting point. And I think if you can do that, you'll get some help from some of the people who are looking to hire. I don't know if anybody else has anything else. That's a good question. No.
Are you looking, if you're looking to work for somebody, look for an innovator, somebody that's doing things that's a little ahead of the curve. As tough as it's been the last few years, there are profound opportunities right now.
Yeah.
I heard somebody the other day say they think there's more opportunities today than there were 20 years ago because, number one, there's a little less competition. There's a lot of competition out there that's not real healthy right now or kept up with times. So the people that can do that, I think there's a tremendous amount of it. Somebody said on a panel discussion I was facilitating yesterday that there's 50% of the same kind of printing that was available in 1995 today. Somebody else said, well, there's half the amount of printers that are available today.
Yeah.
So to me, if I do my math, I'm going, well, for the people that are left, that's about the same market that's out there. And it's how you capture that market and how do you take advantage of it.
I would note that printers are complaining, and have for a long time, that we can't find good people. And there's a lot of graduates out there that are complaining they can't find jobs. Here you are, everybody, and the numbers are good for you here. He has resumes, printed resumes on him, by the way. But in this day and age, printers are still looking for qualified people. The competition, your competition, is much less because printing is not as glamorous as it was at one time. It's another business. Printers are afraid to hire someone good because they're afraid to make the salary investment in these tough times. So the best thing you can do is demonstrate your value, that print is not just one class you took, printing output, that you understand what you're doing and that you will bring value and innovation at the same time that you will bring your knowledge of other media into perhaps an established company that needs that kind of fresh perspective. So show people that you understand our business, but that you also understand current media, and that you have something to bring that not all applicants do.
I'll take that because I had a panel. That was one of the topics yesterday, and some pretty well-known people in the industry. And they thought printing on different substrates, wide format was really a place to be because, yeah, there is some people doing it right now, but a lot of printers still aren't involved in it, or they're just doing banners and posters. I mean, one of the examples was people personalizing Christmas ornaments. That there's a machine that does that, but it's very inexpensive. I'm not saying you should get involved in that particular thing, but if you take that thought process of personalizing products and things you can print on other than paper, and it's amazing. You know, there's wallpaper, floor graphics, there's vehicles, there's all kinds of things that are available.
Since I read the article, I probably could answer that. There is a trend going now that, like for instance on supply chain, there are some large companies that are moving very aggressively with software and have resources where they can provide end-to-end solutions. I don't know if you're aware of this, but some of your clients, some of the bigger ones, we're noticing IBM, Oracle, now getting involved, beginning to integrate print, digital, security, mobility, the cloud, which, quite frankly, I've been in the industry a long time on the manufacturers. I have not seen that before. So here's in my view, for 150 years, printing has been a personal relationship between a printer and a client. I would assume that because of technology, you'll see some larger companies emerge who can take pieces of this. But I would seriously doubt, and again, this is my opinion, it's not a fact, that because of the personal relationship, agencies, depending on what level you are, and customers are going to look for that relationship and your ability to work within, co-create solutions within their organization. So that's my take on it. But there is something going on out there, I have to tell you. We're seeing players come in at very high levels within organizations looking at print, and we have not seen that. At least I haven't seen it.
There are numerous technologies out there that you could use, and to recommend one without understanding how many people you have on staff, what are your resources committed to managing those variable fields for the client, what are the resources you have to create those variable documents, would really determine what would be the best fit for you. Because you can invest in something like XMPie, which is incredibly powerful for that quantity of variable, to something that's incredibly simple and basic in the way of technology. So what I would suggest is identifying your budget first and foremost, then pulling back and looking at time and resources you have internally, and then visiting with some of the variable software providers. You know, PageFlex is a great technology as well, and it scales down and scales up. So there are too many options to give you a succinct answer.
A bigger postcard is not oversized, it's a different size. Posters and banners are not oversized printing. They're a different size. We tend to use the term large format in the industry, but I want you all to remember that the people that you sell to every day, I call them civilians. That's my term for people who don't have professional knowledge of our industry. And I want to tell you something else, and you all got to understand this. It is never the buyer's responsibility to communicate with the seller. It is always the seller's responsibility to communicate with the buyer. It's not their responsibility to understand what you're saying. It's your responsibility to communicate with them. And it scares me when I hear printers using terms like oversized. And if a postcard would be oversized, does that make a business card undersized?
Well, that's a lovely question, and this actually goes right back to what Dave was just talking about. First and foremost, when someone shares with me that they have a really good website, my question is, what quantifies that it's a really good website? So understanding what makes a really good website, and it might be different to each and every one of you. If you are not getting traffic to your website, you do not have a really good website. Those are counter to one another. If you're not getting traffic to your website, I would put $100 on the table right now that your website is loaded with industry jargon, oversized postcards, full color printing, digital printing, commercial printing, offset printing. And if your website is loaded with this industry jargon, your customer base is searching for products. services. They need business cards, postcards, they need brochures, they need annual reports, they need a direct mail piece, they need a postcard. They don't need offset printing. That's how we produce the work. And in the studies that we have been looking at and tracking, that is the number one reason why printing companies do not get more traffic to their website. And then followed that with integrating every aspect of your marketing to drive people to the site, whether it's your printed materials, with social media. A lot of people have their Facebook pages up for the business, but there's no link back to the website, Twitter handles, all the way around. Everything needs to integrate, but it starts first with the content that's in the website itself.
It's a good question, obviously. We just wrapped up the ratio study program for essentially the year 2011, and it showed that profitability for the whole industry increased from about 1.4% to 1.8%, which is about a 30% increase between 2010 and 2011. Actually, if I could get a raise of hands, how many people here think that profitability for the printing industry will increase in 2012 when we're all done measuring it? And how many people think it's going to stay the same? And how many think it's going to be lower? So, generally speaking, that's how I feel. The majority of people think it's going to increase profitability this coming year. There's certainly things that could happen to hold back, but at this point, with the elections going on and all the activity, it looks like the printing industry is probably going to increase in profitability. So we're talking about an overall profitability of 1.8% for the printing industry, and that's still about 50% of what it is on average over the last, let's say, 20 to 30 years. So we're only halfway there to recovering from this recession if you look at it as a percentage of profitability.
I'd like to pick up on that a little bit because at our Adi Paparazzi from NAPL gave a presentation, and his numbers are a little higher because in the quick print market it's a little higher. But in any event, what he really wanted to stress to everybody is there are going to be people that are going to be going up by 30 or 40% and companies going off, and it's not going to be everybody's going to go up at that level. There's going to be a big disparity between the ones that increase their sales and profits and the ones that don't. It's more the haves and have-nots. So it's not going to be, I'm just going to rise with the tide I'm automatically going to go up 2 or 3% next year because I'm there. If you're doing a good job, you may go up a lot higher than that, and your competitors aren't doing a good job are going to see the business continue to decline.
As we go through the recessionary period, you can see that costs like selling costs would be diminished faster than, let's say, manufacturing costs, because those are more variable costs that can be eliminated faster. But in the end, there's not much of a change in the overall material costs, the overall manufacturing costs, administrative costs, and selling costs. The only thing that we see is that it will go up and down based on the economy itself, from the standpoint of these costs that people can spend more on, like marketing and sales. We act just like the people that we serve. In other words, when the economy's good, people are buying a lot of advertising dollars. They're promoting their companies, and they buy a lot of work from you people out here. We do the same thing. The moment we see things get tight, we start to eliminate any of these variable costs that can be eliminated. So we see that. The other thing that I have seen is that after a recessionary period, there's a moment in time when pricing becomes a little bit better, where you can get the old pricing that you used to be able to get before the recession. And a lot of printers miss the boat on that. So there's printers that will stay and keep their pricing where it is, and there will be others that will notice that the recession is over and they can move their pricing back up again. And I would say that we're almost there, if not maybe past it right now. That doesn't mean you all go out and increase your pricing 20%, but if we did it all at once, we'd be in good shape, right? Nobody from the
Except maybe
government
with the
here, right?
FTC.
Yeah. There's nobody from the government here, correct?
Print is a crucial part of marketing mix. It's a crucial part of communication mix. My company prints mostly books. We have a lot of niches, but we're doing books. People say to me, they used to say, oh, that's exciting. Now they say, oh, you're in trouble. It's great at cocktail parties. No, I don't think I am in trouble. We have something very important to sell, and we have to let people know about that. It's interesting, we're talking about, Stuart just said that in bad times we're like our customers. We pull back on our own marketing, and yet we can use print marketing at a much better cost than our customers can. We can produce our own work. We can use printing to market. I'm amazed at how many printers I run into who are only using email marketing, for example. I can't afford print. Huh? Seriously, do you believe in what you're doing? I think that comes through. If you don't believe in what you're doing, you probably should consider exiting the business or transitioning your business into strictly alternate media, digital media, new media, whatever you like to call it. In fact, good marketing, and marketing is only one area where print is sold, but let's use that as an example. Good marketing consists of a good mix. Variable data printing is a technology that is able to make great use of a lot of alternate media. We can collect data, we can produce more personalized print. We need to integrate all this and demonstrate to clients how we can integrate print with what they're currently doing. And we need to show them that print is a necessary part of their mix and should be part of their budget.
Tell me if you think I'm right about this. All of your customers would like to grow their businesses. Do you think I'm right about that? Here's another statement then about your customers. Most of your customers couldn't market their way out of a paper bag. Do you think I'm right about that? Do you see the opportunity there? If you can help them to market their way out of a paper bag, they will probably buy at least some of what that involves from you, whether it's print or cross media or just your ideas, the brain power. That's, I think, the transition. That's, I think, the most profitable transition that the industry has available to it. It's not just about the technology and variable data and stuff like that. It's about showing people how to use it.
Part of this, some of this is art and some of this is science, but a lot of it is art. But it starts, as someone said, leadership and confidence. But we have done enough studies and surveys for clients to know that on the buyer's side, there isn't we say cross media. It hasn't even happened yet. It's as the size of the entire printing industry. I mean, we can argue what the number is, but it's a relatively small number. And they challenge it, and as we talk to customers, they're saying printing is coming at the back end of these decisions. To build on what Dave's saying, is if you can co-create and don't assume that your clients understand what we're talking about up here. Because I'm telling you, your experience and our experience is they don't. You're getting 28, 32-year-old decision makers or influencers who need help. So you can't assume they know about book binding or about print on demand or about the impact of cross media and the ROI. So the way you want to differentiate yourself is to move up the food chain to people who actually have responsibility to generate revenue as best you can to get beyond the people who are asking you for quotes. And if you can co-create and help people drive and grow their business, which is everybody wants to do, because I don't think people are using digital media only because of cost. I think it's because they've been grown up that way and they don't all have the knowledge and the experience that you all have in this room. So that would be my recommendation. Get further up and bring confidence to the discussion.
And adding on to that, I just want to ask a question. Show of hands, how many of you create variable data pieces for yourselves, printed variable data pieces that you mail to your clients? Okay, that's frightening. Higher, let's see those hands again. Okay. A few. We need more. And the reason we need more is that the best thing to do is to show your customers your work by what you have produced. And to help them understand it, you need to produce it and use yourselves as the client. It will help you embrace it and understand how to talk about it better. So use yourselves as your guinea pigs to create the pieces. Start small. It doesn't have to be very complex, but one of the trends that we see is that the printing companies that use variable data cross-media for themselves have customers that are paying premium dollar for those services. But it starts with each and every one of us understanding what it is and how to make it happen.
And the message for you guys is not, here's what we can do for you. It becomes, follow me.
Right, I think certainly the calculation, let's say, of an ROI in order to move into a new area is different than just what I said earlier on. But let's just see if we can answer that question. The first thing I think is important is that you have to be in a good financial position just to make the investment. So you do have to pay attention to your balance sheet first. You have to make sure that when you make that investment, you don't put your whole company at risk. So if that means you haven't been profitable in the near term and you're not making enough money and your balance sheet is stretched out, you have to be very conservative. If you have a strong balance sheet, you don't owe any debt, and you can reach out a little further, maybe get on a more cutting edge, more expensive piece of investment, let's say. So, but each one of those investments has to stand on its own, and you need to look at it, from a ROI type of calculation. But basically what I do is, especially for small printers, is you just have to keep asking your customers, is this what you want? And if you keep going back and asking, sooner or later you're going to convince yourself that this is the way you should go. And as my father used to say, if you ever do an ROI calculation, you would never have bought a piece of equipment in the printing industry anyway.
Our ratios weren't really great at one point, and we wanted to go out and buy about $800,000 worth of equipment. And talking to the banker, he says, is this a financial decision or is this a tactical decision to survive in your business? And quite frankly, at the time, it was a tactical to survive in the business and to grow sales at the time. If you looked at our balance sheet, you'd probably say, probably not the ideal time to do it. So you can't always look at it that. Because let's say you don't have a great one. You might not be in business if you continue doing what you're doing. So the other thing I think all goes back to strategic planning. You put together a plan for next year, and I used to always suggest about 5% of your projected revenues is what you should be reinvesting back in as capital. That doesn't mean in every year you're going to invest, if you're $1 million, you're going to invest 50 grand every single year. It might mean 100,000 one year and nothing the next year. But I think you have to do that. I think that's part of your planning and your budgeting and what you need to do. And do it wisely, obviously. Get the right stuff. When's the best time to do it? Probably not when it first comes out. Probably when somebody else you knew has had it, and then has either been successful or not successful in a period of time, and then at that point step in. That's just my opinion.
If you were willing to invest $5,000 a month right now to grow your business, I might suggest that you look for a young MBA, a graduate with a marketing degree, somebody who's done coursework and theory and learned something about how to grow a business, and bring in somebody who knows how to talk that talk to go out and take advantage of the opportunity to really be a marketing services provider. A little softer cost, I think, than however much you got to spend every month on a piece of big iron.
I teach at one of the colleges, and they have a program for people who are older and working, coming back for their degree. I also teach in a graduate school. I didn't realize this. What I'm doing is asking printers to come into my classroom. Now, I'm not recommending that you'll come to me to do this. You'll do this in your own colleges. To come in and talk to the kids and they're not kids, and ask them to review your website and your marketing strategy, and ask them to come back and maybe deliver back to you a social media strategy or a market. And this is where you'll really truly learn. If they don't understand what you're doing, that means that you got to figure this out. And let's just build on what everybody else is saying. But go to local college, particularly if they have adult, where they have people who are working, going back to college, or in a graduate school, believe it or not, and ask you if the professor would allow them to create a marketing plan for you. You're not trying to solve world hunger. Try to do it on maybe on social media, maybe do it on your website. And I guarantee that they will like to do that, because most of these professors are running around looking for people to do that anyway. So I just thought of that yesterday because I'm teaching a class and I have to do that myself.
If you were engaging me to do this, to go through this exercise, we'd talk about your equipment, we'd talk about your average order, we'd try and come up with what we feel is a reasonable first-year expectation, just using a round number that I found works reasonably well in the quick/digital/small commercial segment, maybe $150,000 worth of new business in the first year. And then, if you're willing to assign $100,000 worth of customers to your salesperson, now we got $250,000 worth of revenue. Then the next question is, how much are you willing to pay that person in return for that revenue? Now we're going to establish your investment tolerance. And then, once we know how much you're willing to pay, we know two things, one of which is how much salesperson you can afford. Because please understand that if this exercise adds up to some number of dollars that you're willing to pay $40,000 a year for, you can't hire somebody who needs to make $60,000. Do you understand that part of it? It's different. I mean, once we know how much you're willing to invest, we can talk about how much you can afford to invest from the first month to the second month. I believe that the best compensation plan will have three components: an earned component, an incentive component, and a guaranteed component, salary plus commissions plus bonus. But there's way more to doing it right than I think we could do. I mean, teaching a whole seminar tomorrow morning on how to do this.
Typically, when I talk to printers, it's like, my best year was 2007, 2008, and we were at, 1.4, now we're at 900,000. That's, I'm just pulling numbers out of out of the air, but that's typically what I see a lot of people doing. I think it's just back to basics. I mean, some of the things Dave says is just go back and have a good sales strategy. I would not rely on the economy to pick it up automatically. I would not rely on your website to get a lot of hits to do that unless you actually have a plan on how you're going to take advantage of that. I really think you need to sit down and work out a sales plan. How are you going to build your business? Are you going to do it through outside sales? Are you going to do it through, it depends on the size of the company. If the company is under $1 million, it's probably the owner that has to be involved in the sales process. So I still believe the more times you get in front of people and can tell your story and listen to their story, probably more importantly, the more opportunities you get like that, the more business you're going to get. And it almost goes back to the old basic sales. How many appointments do I get? How many people do I get in front of? And then, even if you're not a good closer, you're going to close half of them usually when you get there. So it's, right, Dave? I mean, it's just, part of success is just being there. But what I find is I think people expect people to find you or do things without doing a lot of marketing or not doing a lot of things. And it's just going to happen because you're there and you do a good job, you good customer service, but you're not doing anything different than anybody else is. Maybe you are, but to your audience out there, they don't know that you answer the phone better. They don't know that you do a little bit better quality in the shop. You don't know, and in many cases, they don't know you might be more efficient in the way you do things unless you tell them. So I think it's all about marketing and having a sales strategy to back it up. Which
is that each one of your customers provides you with three levels of value. The first level of value is what they're buying from you now. The second level of value is what they could be buying from you. And the third level of value is the value of influence and the way your current customers can help you develop new customer relationships. So what's important about the first level of value is that you protect it, which is customer service and customer contact. What's important about the second level of value is that you maximize it, which has a lot to do with customer contact. Go talk to your customers about what they're doing, about what they need, about what they buy. And then, if you run out of things they need or buy or don't buy, to talk to them, ask them if they know anybody else who might be interested in talking to you. The value of influence. That's the beginnings of a sales plan right there, huh?
something that we see is being out of touch with the customer. And this goes back to what we've all been talking about. That is one of the greatest concerns that I have in this industry is as we're changing and evolving what our services are, one of your biggest competitors isn't the competitor who's printing, it's the customer that has in-house equipment. There are digital printers and copiers and laser printers. But it really is that we're not in touch with our customers. And there's this connection here, and to get sales, you've got to be out there with people. You need to be face-to-face. We are not in a time where you can hide behind the counter or hide behind a web interface. It is all about relationships. And one of the things that's trending right now is local search. ComScore just finished a study, and 76% of consumers go online to do research before making a purchase, or they go online to get information. That doesn't mean they're purchasing online. They still want to come and have a relationship, which is great for our industry because this is a relational business. But Mallory, it's just, I see that we are fearful of the changes that are happening, and we're not getting out there and embracing the change. And that's where we have stagnant sales or a decline, and that's a huge concern.
I would agree that the biggest thing is just staying on top of change. I think we were lucky through the 80s and 90s that the printing industry, although we were moving towards analog to digital, essentially we were still delivering the same product. But today that's not the case. You really have to understand what it is that your customers want. But what to follow up on some of the questions that I was asked earlier, what I do find is that typically if the president of the company is involved in the sales efforts, that those companies do better. The reason why they do better is exactly what was said over here, is because they're paying attention to what the customers are saying. And when you're paying attention to what the customer is saying, you know how to lead your company forward. When you're in the back end and you're doing the manufacturing, it's very hard to lead because you're in the back. And I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm just saying that this is what I find.
And I just want to build on and what Dave said before, that my fear is there is a transitioning taking place. We're moving from a product market to a more value creator. And the thing that scares me the most is the lack of confidence in the printing industry, particularly there are some printing companies doing a great job, really, terrific. But in general, in observation, there's a lack of confidence. And that confidence enables you to do the things that Dave has outlined so eloquently about adding value for your customers, because they're also going through a transition as well. So that's the part that scares me, this lack of confidence. And I think that's what it is. Because I think the processes and the how-tos are available, but that's the other piece that only you can fix.
I see two fears. Is number one is not calling on the right types of customers. There are a bunch of industries now that are doing real well and growing, and a lot of us just go back to the same places we've been looking, forever. So really change how you go out and do your sales process and your marketing. The other one, there's a lot more competition today from different places. Laser printers and all the stuff people do in-house obviously is one. There's, the internet printers, although I do think they're kind of flattening out a little bit. They have taken a big chunk of business away from us. And we can laugh about the Vista prints, and we don't want those kind of customers and things like that. But those people aren't dumb. They're going to move up the food chain a little bit as they get this great database of millions of customers and go after some more stuff that we do. To combat that is to do what I think Tanya said before, is to figure out a way that they can buy locally using the same tools that these internet printers are using, because most people would rather buy from you in New Orleans than buy from somebody in Chicago, right? I mean, the only thing is they want to order Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're not open, or you don't have a way to do that, or you can't answer the question, whereas some of these other people have that ability to do it. So I think it's really looking at where the competition is coming from and seeing how you can capture some of that and keep it in your area.
This is a very odd analogy, but through evolution and of time, the stronger survive, the weak die. It is in human nature, right? In the animal kingdom, in everything. The strong will always be the ones who survive and the most adaptive. And that is no different than in the business world and certainly in the printing industry. And as for going to get those clients, I have ideas, but Dave or...
We do a lot of mergers and acquisition work. We spend a lot of time talking to local printers who say, no, I'm not ready to retire, I'm not ready to retire. No, our business is doing great. And you say to yourself, I know they're not doing great, why won't they talk to me? But eventually they pick up the phone and they call and they say, it's time for me to get sold. Now, you can do the same thing. You can speak to your local printers, talk to them, just let them know, don't let your business close without talking to me first. And they, believe me, they'll wait till the 11th hour to call you, but when they do call you, be ready to jump on the opportunity to bring their clients into your shop instead of letting them go somewhere else. That's the best thing I can say.
I'd like to do a little cheerleading here too. Forward into the past, forward into the future. In my business, I'm going to throw out a rough statistic. I hardly lose any clients. I own a printing business, by the way, in my part-time when I'm not talking in front of audiences on Sunday morning. I hardly lose any clients anymore to competing printers. I lose clients because they're not doing the work anymore, or they go out of business. I probably offset that by picking up clients from printers who've gone out of business, who aren't handling the work right anymore. I don't think that's a great, it's good to pick up an opportunity. If a guy in your town has a good book of business, he closes for some reason, to pick that work up. But there's a reason he closed. And I think it's far better for us to be looking at new products, new alternatives, new things that we can offer healthy customers than to try to pick up that unhealthy book of business from a printer that was unhealthy. So by all means, yeah, I don't disagree with picking up what's left of someone who goes under. Grab it while it's there, but that's probably not going to be something to build your future on. Instead, focus more on new things that nobody's doing.
I think that's worth repeating, too. There are orphans out in the marketplace now, people whose printer has gone out of business. But some of those orphans, some of those customers, they're like serial killers, you know? I mean, it's true. There are bad customers out there, and when you put a bad customer together with a printer who doesn't have the whatever it takes to demand better behavior, you know, those people can put you out of business too. I would also say this: if you're thinking about acquiring somebody's book of business, get some estimates from the person that you're thinking about acquiring. Check their price levels and give some sense of whether you'll be able to keep the customers at the prices you want. Some of you guys know Nancy Dietmar. She told me once about a while ago, 15, 18 years ago, she said, I'm committed to being the last two-color printer in America. As it happened, she changed her mind because the full-color technology became easier to buy and easier to operate. But when she said that to me, I said, that's cool. You just have to recognize that the less of it there is, the better you'll have to be, the harder you'll have to compete for it. If you want to be a printer, be a printer. But if you want to be in business in 15, 18 more years, then I think you might want to think about other opportunities.
Be proud you're a printer. That's what you do. You can do other things. One, I thought very telling, one buyer of print, a young person said, I don't want a marketing service provider. I need a printer. We have solutions and we have knowledge, we have a skill set to offer to people who understand what we have to offer. Our job is A, to let them know we're there, and B, to educate people who don't appreciate print, the value of print, educate them to what, maybe not necessarily what the industry can provide, that may be a little more than we can do, but what we can provide to them, and what print can uniquely do to help their business. By the way, if anybody knows what a marketing service provider is, please see me afterwards, because I would like to know.
At least this person knows what they are and they know what they do and own it. Whatever it is, own what you do and forge forward.
Very good, very good. And I would point out, too, that we are all involved with a magazine that for 36 years now has been called Quick Printing. And everybody tells us now nobody is interested in quick printing. Well, I see a room full of people here who are. And I have 40,000 subscribers every month to the print publication. We have a huge audience on My Print Resource, and these people are all interested in something that is called quick printing. So it is not dead, it is not gone away. We are stronger than ever, and thank you very much for being a part of it.